Okay, so how do you do it? So this is interesting. Yeah, great, Barnaby. You've explained SAC to me. You've explained why it's everywhere now, and I'm an SAP shop, and I should probably be more aware of how I should use SAC going forward. How do I do it? What's the commercial implications, and what does the project look like to get me from A to B, or to get me from A to Z if I want to go all the way there? So the first thing to note, again, I reminded you before, we are here now, right? This 4.3 was released earlier in 2020, and we're now into Q2 of 2021. So you've already seen the first support pack for 4.3, and it's mature and stable. I've had lots of conversations with customers wanting to do a business objects upgrade because they might be on 4.1 and they're running out of time to do that, and they're looking to go to 4.2. My strong recommendation, NIMBL's strong recommendation, is to make the move to 4.3 already now, because it does unlock that ability to connect your WEBI sources directly to SAC. And the UI of 4.3 looks a lot more like the UI of a modern Fiori SAP system. So the kind of learning curve for a user is much smaller as you start to adapt into this hybrid environment. SAP has a new license that allows you to downsize your business objects platform to just keep WEBI if that's what you want. As you've seen Explorer and Dashboard Support go away, they've reduced the cost of these two on the right, but they've also introduced this new license that says, hey, you just want to keep your WEBI alive? Great, do that. Reduce your maintenance space for business objects and take some of that savings and leverage it to invest more in SAC. So you can reduce both the license quantity and the functionality. So you can say, I only want WEBI, but I also want less WEBI. And SAP will let you take that extension through what they call their cloud extension policy. Use some of that maintenance savings to invest with any cloud tool, but in this case, we're talking about SAC. This conversation may require a conversation with your AE from SAP, but also we'd be happy to facilitate it if you want a little more understanding of what this means. If you're comparing to SAP, basically the point here is you can reduce from what is your existing business objects enterprise professional to a WEBI only, and then add on SAC. So your net is here. Whereas if you were to say, hey, I want to add Power BI or I want to add Tableau, you're going to be adding a more significant maintenance cost. Okay, so how do we, NIMBL, help you get this done? So we have some methodologies, some services that can help you understand the best way to introduce SAC to your environment. It can be a small and gradual exposure to SAC, like we see in some of our customers, or it can be a bigger investment where you say, you know what, we're going to keep business obviously around just for these smaller use cases, and we're going to start to move as SAC as our primary. What I would say, having done this for many years and with many of our customers, is there's a lot of customers out there who buy SAC because SAP gave them a sweet deal, or they had it packaged under a larger bundle. And then the deployment of it becomes a little lackluster. They dabble, they throw a few dashboards out there, there's a few users using it, and everybody's a bit confused about what is SAC, when should I use it? What is WEBI, when should I use it? What is Crystal, when should I use it? It's important to have a strategy and to have a roadmap in place for yourselves that you stick to that says, we're gonna roll this out like this, but we're also gonna roll it out to different departments and at different levels of the organization at once. So like I said before, we're gonna have executive rollout, we're gonna have end user analyst rollout at the same time, so that this doesn't become a tool that gets pigeonholed as the thing that the executives use or the thing that one department uses. So a couple things that we like to look at. So the first, I was just discussing analytics strategy. So what is your enterprise strategy alignment? What architecture will you need to put this in place? And using what we call our Edge Plus methodology, let's profile your users and determine, does SAC have all the features that they're going to need? Are they willing to change, willing to adapt to a new way of doing their jobs? Or are they very entrenched in the existing process that we, as IT, will have a hard time changing? Gradually perhaps, but not with a big, Band-Aid tear off. So what does that look like in our Edge Plus methodology? We have a strong methodology. It's it is required, as I said before. You've got to understand what people are trying to do before you go and do it. If you just say, hey, here's a hammer, go find some nails, and everyone's like, I've got a bunch of screws here, it doesn't help them. And that's often the case. I've seen many times in my time in industry where tools were purchased and just became shelfware or became data extraction tools rather than really data analytical and empowering tools for the business. We look at three main pieces when we do this, our methodology, which is the business objectives here on the left. What are they trying to do? What are their strategies? Where do they want to go? Not just now, but in the future. User personas, so how do you segment your user from an analyst to a power user to just a consumer to an executive? What are the different features that each of those personas are going to require in a tool? And then processes and assets. So what are the business processes that these analytical capabilities are going to help support? And what are the digital assets, the KPIs, the tools, the reports, the data models that they're going to need to do those things? So all of these classifications together help empower you to say, all right, I understand what I'm doing. I've got a map. Let's go do that, rather than just trying to jump in and say, hey, I got the tool. Let's go figure out the problem later. The second is an SAC pilot. So how can we do a pilot deployment of SAC so that you understand as a business where it can work with your existing architecture? So these should be numbered 1, 2, and 3. I apologize for the bullet there. But the first one is an SAC pilot. So standalone. You just want SAC. You don't necessarily have or need the ability to connect to an existing BW or HANA system. You just want to create a system, provision it, and test it out. This could or could not be one that's connected to a business object environment, but it's really just about, together with that strategy, saying, all right, we understand our personas, we understand the business, let's dip our toe into the waters with SAC. We have a free trial, like we are able to provide a tenant to customers so they can do this SAC pilot themselves. The second is one with HANA. So let's say you have some data that's currently sitting in an Oracle or a SQL Server database, and you're moving towards SAP, and you'd like to understand how this tool together with HANA could really benefit you. You've heard the stories or you've read some successes from other companies and you want to understand it. This is an easy way, and you may have seen stories of our deployments of SAC with HANA for example, the 49ers or other enterprises that are leveraging the power of HANA together with SAC to have real-time data streaming into their HANA system that they can then easily visualize. It's a little bit bigger of a project, but you get a lot more value from it if your strategy may involve HANA or Data Warehouse Cloud in the future. The last one is for BW. Many of our customers are BW based. There's still a lot of value in BW, either BW 7.5 or BW for HANA. Similar story to what I mentioned. This would involve us building the necessary data sources, packages to bring the data in, but also to expose that data to SAC so you can really see end to end. Maybe you're an S4 customer, S4 plus BW4 plus SAC is really the story that brings all of your data and analytics together. The last piece that we like to offer that is very valuable to some customers who maybe purchased SAC and they already have an architecture in place, but they're struggling really to get the wheels churning in terms of capability deployment internally. So we have a teach you to fish kind of approach here where we don't want to be the people that have to build every single story and report for an enterprise. We don't want a company to be dependent on an SI like ourselves, but rather to empower you so that you can do it yourselves, both you and IT or business people if that's your role. So what that looks like is really building out specific lecture content that drives specific to your business needs, what and how SAC can and should be used by your company, and then you see here on the right hands-on exercises to really deliver what is the latest in terms of features. There's certainly a lot of content available, SAC content, training, YouTube videos, that kind of thing. But we see a lot more value in having these tailored sessions where questions can be asked and answered directly by the instructor in real time.